1 second, chat. I thought it was on for a second. What's up, chat? Hey, Yui. We have a video to watch. We have a video to watch, and I will be recording, but we have a video to watch. Hey, what's up?
Null became a golden thread. What's up, Sync?
Hey,
How
what's
are
up?
you?
What's up? I'm feeling a little bit better. Had a better day. Pushed myself a little bit. Still trying to figure out why Marvel Rivals doesn't want to work while streaming, but while I'm doing that, we got a video to watch. A video that you guys probably saw coming, but I think we need to watch it. Just so you know, and that if ever in the future this becomes some sort of recording or clipped inside in any kind of way, obviously don't go after the creator of the video or anybody within the video. To be honest, I'm not really sure what to take from the video. I saw a little bit of it, but I didn't see the whole thing. But as it says in the title, this stream, it's basically the problem with Yoshi P. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna keep our sound mind. Basically, we're not going to be jerks. Hopefully, and while we're watching the video, we're gonna make constructive and try to be as unbiased as possible. I'm just saying, we're gonna try to be as unbiased as possible while watching this video. So, without further ado, let me get the video up. All right. And it is the one that you're thinking about. Here we go. I'm gonna have to turn off text to speech here. And we're gonna be recording this. So it's gonna be a little bit different because this is going to be me. Obviously, I'm gonna turn the noise gate off just in case if I can get the noise gate to not be on. I'm gonna be setting up for the recording. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna do the That was weird. I'm going to do the standard intro to the video, and this is going to go onto the Syncweaver channel, so bear with me. Yes, I'm going to be talking to the audience that is not there right now, but I'm going to be talking to an audience. Let's give it a shot. Let's watch this video, and again, do not go after anybody in the video. Anybody who watches the YouTube video, I should probably say that while we're doing recording. Okay. Here we go. Hello. Hi, this is being recorded for YouTube, and that means that you're going to probably see some comments here and there. I turned off TTS for this stream, and it's not going to have a bunch of background words and people of an AI voice talking throughout this, but I am streaming, and this is being recorded. The video that we were about to watch and basically react to is called The Problem with Yoshi P, an Honest Critique. Now, this is a critique, meaning that it's going to be I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible, and we're going to see what happens. But I want to watch this video and see what this person thinks. It's going to be 20 minutes, which means that this video is going to be more than 20 minutes. If anything, I forgot to press the record button on my Audacity. There we go. Forgot to press the record button on that. So now my mic is going to sound a bit better. I don't know. I probably will just take the whole thing out. But we're going to be watching The Problem with Yoshi P, an Honest Critique by Embers Arcade. I want to put this out there. Do not go after the person. Do not go after anybody within the video. Do not do anything like that. You can put your critiques in the video, because I am going to put the link into the description of this video. You can go ahead and watch it yourself, and I don't know if they have a social media or anything, but if you're going to talk within the comments of his video, do it like an adult, as an adult. We are not children. And I know that there are plenty of people out there within the Final Fantasy community that has a lot to say, but I will have I'm going to try and be as unbiased as possible. So here we go.
I think that I've fallen out of love with Final Fantasy XIV. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is going to be another video essay about how terrible Dawntrail is, right? No, not exactly, because my moment of realization wasn't in the middle of a cooking competition with Wukla Mod. As a matter of fact, it wasn't even while I was playing Final Fantasy XIV. It was while I was playing Final Fantasy XVI that the spell finally broke. I want to make one thing clear. I'm a normal guy, I have a normal job, a budding independent business, a couple of dogs. I don't have a ton of time to play video games, let alone make videos for this channel. Thus, in order to avoid wasting my limited time, I don't buy games that I don't scrutinize heavily first, and I certainly don't appreciate when games disrespect what little time I have.
That's the name of the game when it comes to any kind of video game nowadays, don't you think? Modern video games, modern MMOs, AAA definitely. Yeah, that's the name of the game, to soak up as much as our time as possible. But I see what he's saying here.
Final Fantasy XVI was one of the few games that I've ever purchased on faith alone. Faith that was founded in my experience with Final Fantasy XIV, which, at the time of 16's release, I would have considered both the best MMORPG on the market and the best narrative in a video game. I know, that's a bold claim, but Shadowbringers was really that good. For those of you who are uninitiated, 14 and 16 are both products of Creative Studio 3, or as it was once called, Creative Business Unit 3, so it shouldn't come as a surprise to any of you that the two games bear more than a few similarities. In fact, they're alarmingly similar in almost every way.
Not really sure how he's comparing the MMO and Final Fantasy 16, seeing how one game is an MMO. You might see the same number usage like you're seeing on screen right now, for sure. That's like asset using, but like I wouldn't try to compare an MMO to an action RPG in this stance. They're both Final Fantasy for sure. But I'm gonna hear him out.
Outside of fidelity, and of course one being an MMORPG and the other being a single-player game. I'll be blunt. Final Fantasy...
You say fidelity? Let me go back.
Bear more than a few similarities. In fact, they're alarmingly similar in almost every way outside of fidelity, and of course one being an MMORPG and the other being a single-player game. I'll be blunt. Final Fantasy XVI kinda sucked. I acknowledge that the visuals are gorgeous and that the music is wonderful, even if it is just Eureka.
He said... Oh, I have a lot of words when it comes to Eureka, but no, 16 is not Eureka. I don't agree with that, but I can see what he's trying to say. But let's try to hear him out.
And the boss encounters at the budget of a small country's gross domestic product, but the game itself kinda sucked. 16's world was barren, uninteresting to explore, and entirely devoid of danger. The most threatening thing awaiting you in 16 is the laundry list of uninspired side quests that offer neither an intrinsic gameplay experience worth having.
That's an interesting take. devoid, he said it was barren and devoid of danger, but like if you go to the marshlands, if you go up further north, you're going towards the next kingdom, I believe, and when you're in the desert, there's like plenty of danger everywhere. There's even a section where you're like stuck in a desert, I believe, or you're in the placement of a desert, and everywhere you turn there's like a venomous creature somewhere.
6 or 7 seconds. 16 even has the gall to present the player with a crafting system which offers statistical upgrades in order to create the illusion of progression and customization. But the system exists.
It is a very bare bones for the crafting system.
Something interesting to interact with. Does any of that sound familiar to you? Huh. What other game might that list of flaws also describe? I just can't.
Whoa, okay, hold on. What did you say about the crafting system?
6 or 7 seconds. 16 even has the gall to present the player with a crafting system which offers statistical upgrades in order to create the illusion of progression and customization. But the system exists to fulfill a feature quota rather than being something interesting to interact with. Does any of that sound familiar to you?
Is he comparing the crafting system to 14's crafting system? Because I wouldn't say 14's crafting system is just there for like, just to upgrade features or just to move on to the next set of armor. Because, people can not do any kind of crafting whatsoever and still progress in the game. Maybe he means something else. Maybe I'm just not understanding.
Huh. What other game might that list of flaws also describe? I just can't.
And he's talking about how 14 is a barren wasteland, doesn't have any kind of dangers around the corner, and I do have to acknowledge though it can be very barren in 14. I cannot, that is a thing. That is definitely a thing. He's comparing gear progression to crafting specifically.
Put my finger. If you guessed Final Fantasy 14, then congratulations, you've been paying attention and you've won today's special prize. Please collect a free copy of a good MMO on your way out. In my
he said he pointed at WoW for a good MMO. Oof.
In my mind, the developers of my favorite MMORPG would surely.
I'm kidding. WoW could just be very. I don't know.
Create a masterpiece.
WoW could just be good. I'm just saying, like WoW could be very good right now. I just haven't played it. It's not my game though. I'm sure there are plenty of people playing WoW right now.
With all of the financial backing of Square Enix and a full-length AAA development cycle, yet the result of that effort was one of the most restrained, lifeless, and quite frankly boring games I've ever played. So who's at fault? Hence the title. I know, everybody loves Yoshi P, and you're already upset that I would even suggest that his stewardship of these 2 Final Fantasy entries has been anything less than stellar, but you have to agree that if there's an issue, then the buck has to stop somewhere, and what better place than with the director? So hold off on disliking the video just yet. Let me make my case, then you can dislike it.
The problem with Yoshi P. Here we go.
Let's talk about the culture of fear that defines Creative Studio 3's game design philosophy. A few years ago, NoClip released a documentary about Final Fantasy XIV's disastrous launch and its eventual recovery from the brink with the leadership of Naoki Yoshida. You've all seen it. I'd even wager that some of you who are watching this in front of a live audience right now shamelessly re-uploaded it to your channels. It was an inspiring story of determination, unbridled.
I didn't. In your face, whoever was watching.
Passion and draconian micromanagement, which led to the development of one of the most successful MMORPGs ever made. When I watched it, however, I was struck by one particular scene during Yoshida's interview. I will paraphrase. Basically, Yoshi P claimed to have implemented a system of task micromanagement which tracked an individual employee's job down to the minute. You can imagine that such a system would be necessary when attempting to rebuild an MMO in 18 months. The results, of course, speak for themselves, but I could never let go of that quote. Why would anyone want to work under those conditions? Well, thank goodness they aren't doing that anymore. But do we know that? Are we sure that Yoshi P has loosened his grip in the last 10 years that he's helmed Square Enix's flagship live service game? While I would assume that working conditions have changed at the studio, only the people on the inside can say for certain. Either way, I can't shake the feeling that the specter of those grueling 18 months is hanging over Creative Studio 3 to this day.
That is a question. To be fair, we don't know what's going on behind closed doors. But if I recall, Yoshi P said that he didn't want to be in that grueling state anymore with his team or anything like that. Because I'm pretty sure he has like a system that allows them to have as much rest as possible while also being able to work on whatever they need to work on. and maybe I can find like an article when there, and I believe it was from an interview. But I mean, true to his word, right? Because to be fair, he did say we don't know what's going on behind closed door. I doubt Yoshi P is trying to push that kind of workplace environment, but again, I don't know. Nobody knows unless you work for the company. So I mean, he does have a point in some case.
Despite all of its success, dictating how they make video games. Consider the way that both 14 and 16 treat their own combat systems. No one would disagree that both of these titles are narrative driven, but there is a sense that Creative Studio 3 is ashamed of the fact that they have to interrupt their storytelling with obligatory combat encounters.
I won't let him speak. I have an opinion on the combat system of 16. It's probably more on the base of like I'm just trying to figure out what he's trying to say with that.
14 is an absurdly easy game in nearly every respect, sequestering its truly difficult content as far away from players as possible in order to ensure that story progression cannot be impeded by gameplay. To experience 14's current Savage tier, one has to play through over 200 hours of story, which is composed almost entirely of stinted cutscenes with...
No, I would say that's closer to like 300, 350 maybe. It's a bigger story. Especially that is a complaint though. If you want to go through the game, you'll have to go through that. Is it? Oh, it's probably worse than US, but whether it's black company or not, it's only known by employees. Absolutely, we don't know what's going on behind closed door. We can only go by what they say. Nintendo has apparently they always tell of a good work-life culture within their company, within Nintendo, and they've actually shown that with people, you know, having fruit whenever they have a snack. There's like a bar to the side. People can rest when they need to rest. Nintendo shows like what a company looks like when it's successful, and I don't think Square Enix is at a point where they're a black company. Thus, I don't think they're in that. I think they're more in the line of where Nintendo is rather than where a black company is. Again, I don't know. They've never shown what's going on behind closed door there. So, I don't know. But 200 hours? Yeah, I'd say it's more than 200, 300 hours. If you're going with cutscenes, if you're going to go by with cutscenes, I think. You could speedrun the game. Yeah. Just don't speedrun it.
Sparse gameplay along the way. What gameplay challenges do exist are nearly impossible to fail, which makes them feel trivial and unrewarding. This is a problem that persists into the level cap. During Endwalker's 6.2 patch cycle, Yoshida himself talked about falling asleep during an expert dungeon.
I'm sorry because there is a there is a problem. There was a problem during Shadowbringers and Walker where the content was just freaking easy. It was absolutely a snore. Yeah, he makes a good point here.
An experience that I've had throughout Dawn Trail and Final Fantasy XVI. Despite boasting a combat system built in part by Ryota Suzuki, who led the design of the combat in Devil May Cry 5, 16's gameplay is similarly toothless. The general difficulty is extremely low, with enemies of every variety, from your standard spider in a forest to an S-rank hump mark, offering little to no threat throughout the course of the campaign, which, by the way, must be completed in order to access Final Fantasy mode, which
I hope later on he talks more about the combat and gameplay here, because saying something is not as difficult as something, it does not equate to fun for a lot of people. For me, I like a bit of difficulty in my stuff. I mean, I play PoE2. I like playing all the Soulsborne games. I love Elden Ring. I love all those games, right? Difficulty for me is a challenge, and I like challenge. But for some people, it's, you know, it's not the same thing. So maybe he talks more about this.
increases the difficulty to a more acceptable level. Again, little to no threat far away as possible.
I went back by accident, my bad.
You can actually decrease 16's difficulty further by wearing the timely rings, which trivialize combat mechanisms such as using Torgal's abilities or dodging enemy attacks or even performing combos. These accessories are optional, of course, but they're emblematic of Creative Studio 3's fear that a player will be unable to overcome a gameplay challenge and, as a result, miss the opportunity to experience the next cutscene.
That is a good point, actually. That's actually my biggest issue with 16 combat. Was fun, but nothing was there for me to perfect it. I really wish they allowed the harder difficulty at the start. Yeah, that's kind of the issue, right? And I do think that, by your point, Draco, some people really do want to have a challenge with the game. And I think that's that culture of fear that he's talking about. That a game isn't difficult enough for some people because difficulty is like the thing that they're having fun with. That's the challenge. He probably, this fear that Yoshi P and probably the whole entire studio are sucked into is a matter of whether or not people are able to complete the content, and they're afraid that it's, you know, too difficult for the normal person to get into in order to, you know, play all the content or reach the end of the story. I think that's the culture of fear that he's pointing out there.
Thus, they build their games to be nearly impossible to fail, smoothing out the rough textures that make playing video games interesting.
Right.
And then they hide any semblance of challenge as far out of view as possible, out of fear that you might be scared off, all in service of storytelling.
Which is weird, because you have games like Elden Ring out, and people love Elden Ring. It's a difficult game. It's not the most difficult, but it is a difficult game for some people. For everyone, honestly. Some may think that it's the easiest thing in the world because they know life hard games their whole entire time, but for like the normal person, it's a difficult game, but they still enjoy it. So I see what he's saying.
I'm utklammert. Claimant to the throne of Tulihuela.
What I'm about to say applies exclusively to 14. Creative Studio 3 demonstrates more of that paralyzing fear of failure in the delivery of its content offerings. Expansions are a strict template upon which an identical experience is built. By refusing to innovate or to introduce new kinds of content or to even reinvent dated systems, Creative Studio 3 successfully evades any possible crisis while
I'm gonna let them cook.
Also circumventing all potential to provide their paying customers with interesting experiences. Unless they're building a mobile game, of course. In that case, pull out all the stock.
Don't you hate it that you see something cool in a mobile game, but they don't want to put it in the main game? Ain't that great? I'm gonna let them cook, though.
The worlds that Creative Studio 3 creates are always beautifully rendered, yet painfully constrained and completely lacking in any sense of danger or discovery. As I began my journey with 16, I immediately recognized the map design as identical to 14's, which gave me some pause, because it reminded me specifically of A Realm Reborn. Consider the marshes just south of Martha's Rest. There were moments when traversing the environment, and I would see an objective across the river, but because of the restrictive map design, I would be unable to reach it without taking an unnatural detour. It felt completely unintuitive to have to circumnavigate terrain which appeared traversable. Then I remember.
So there is a thing about game design for that, and the similarities that he does see there within 16 and 14, and that I can give him. But I would say that the map design within 16, in thinking back on it, I'd say it's more akin to like an open-ish Devil May Cry world. But maybe I'll elaborate that later, but just think about that for a second.
Remembered that as a hallmark of 14's early world design. One of the first negative impressions I had of Final Fantasy XIV was when I realized how segmented Limsa Lominsa was.
See, that was your first mistake. You chose Limsa Lominsa. See, like, that's always the mistake of people who start the game. They choose Limsa Lominsa. Do not ever go to Limsa Lominsa as your first place to go. Don't do that. I was confused as hell the first time I saw the remade Limsa Lominsa from Final Fantasy 14 1.0. So I was like, what is this place?
The world provides the illusion of a playable space, but the map reveals how small that space truly is. Ultimately, I forgave the game for this flaw.
Well, definitely for A Realm Reborn, I forgive it a little because of just how much constraint they actually had, how much time they didn't have, what they had to fix, what they had to remake. Yeah, I remember when they made A Realm Reborn, they didn't have a lot of resources. They had to start from scratch because Yoshi P said, we need to start from scratch. So I mean, this is just one map, right? But almost every map in A Realm Reborn almost had like that constrained feel, and I would say the exception would be the Sagori Desert, which is near Ul'dah. I would say maybe like the first couple of areas near Limsa Lominsa. I would also say there are a couple more. It's not really in my head right now. And I would say the most intricate area would probably be I want to say Mordona, the area around Mordona. That's also constraint, but I believe it was for story purposes that, you know, it's surrounded by, like, you're around a lake, and they made what they could from that. And that's also the place where, you know, the Crystal Tower was, where you had to go and do the dungeon. I forgot the name of the dungeon, but that's where you meet more, you know, Midgardsormr. But, you know, I could tell you that he's correct in this term. That is very constrained, very small. There's a little bit of barren wasteland-ish kind of thing in the Realm Reborn.
Chalking it up to the technical limitations of the PlayStation 3, but when I laid eyes on this, I began to wonder whether or not technical limitations were the culprit after all. What is the reason to continue designing playable environments in this way? And what is the purpose of populating these spaces with enemies that pose absolutely no threat to any player who has the capacity to mash square?
I can answer the question about the mashing square. More and more people were playing video games during that time, and I believe Yoshi P was probably taking in like the market research data when it comes to the normal player, and the normal player is casual, and the casual player cannot do things like playing Savage or playing Ultimate or playing hard games in general. And I'm not saying that they all can't do that. I'm just saying that more often than not, a casual player will stop playing a game because something is too difficult, or they don't have time to spend hours on hours to bash their head against a wall to beat a challenge, rather than just try to ease their way through. I think that's what Yoshi P was thinking about.
Some of the most memorable moments that I've ever had in the entirety of my life playing video games have been a result of emergent gameplay. I recently had an amazing encounter with this while playing Throne and Liberty. I was exploring an environment, then I ran into an unexpected combat encounter which led to an hour-long grind session with total strangers. You'll hear
That's what I was talking about. On an hour-long grinding session, and just the emergent gameplay in there, which is good. I'm glad he's having fun with Throne and Liberty. You won't catch me playing that game, but something like that is probably for those kinds of people, and especially since Throne and Liberty, I think, is Korean. I'm not too sure about that. I'll think about that for a second.
Hear more about that game in my next upload, but those types of experiences in which the player engages with the game's systems and environments to create an unexpected outcome are
also mashing square. You don't just mash square in 16. That's the other thing. If you want to successfully do a combo, you don't just mash square.
completely missing in Creative Studio 3's games. This is a result of
Throne
two
Liberty
design
is Korean?
choices.
Okay,
First,
cool.
as I mentioned before, the lack of threats in the open world. In
That's
both
true,
14
there is a
and
lack of
16,
threats.
Barring exceptional circumstances, the game is working overtime to ensure that you are never in danger while you are moving towards your next objective in the narrative. In particular, 16 has an issue with allowing the player.
And here he said lack of narrative, or lack of like danger within the narrative. That's very specific, because when it comes to the narrative of 14, it is the main hook for players, basically.
To severely outscale the creatures in the open world, while also making it impossible for them to dismount or interrupt player movement. So you barely have to consider their existence as you run past them. If the player does decide to engage
I don't know why I paused at that point, actually. I'm sorry.
engage them, then the enemies usually spend most of the fight standing still, allowing you to ruin them with the same combo that you've performed hundreds of times before. 14 is similarly...
But, you know, the funny thing is that throughout the entire gameplay that he showed us there, I don't think he was using the same mash square combo there, which is the fun part about all this. It's odd because 16 has similar combat to that of Devil May Cry. So you're not just going to be mashing square all the time. There's different combat styles that you could be using to chain together to do a whole lot of damage. I give 16 at least that credit.
Bland in this respect, with the exception of S-rank hunt marks, which boast unique and deadly attacks. However, those marks are typically engaged by organized hunt trains, whose sheer numbers completely trivialize the danger of those encounters.
That's true. Those trains do trivialize it, and it's in every single server, in every single data center. You always will encounter those, but they don't really pose a threat. What really poses a threat was during a Realm Reborn days with the Behemoth and Odin, where the Behemoth killed people and Odin killed people. And the thing is that they were very challenging because Behemoth would basically massacre everyone in the field unless you're in a party and your party members are paying attention, whether, you know, the DPS and the tanks are dying, right? And then there's Odin that didn't even have an aggro table, I don't think, but he went around slicing and dicing. And if you just so happen to walk past that battle, you'll get hit too, because Odin hits everyone in that area. But the cool thing about Odin is that if you win, you do beat him, he takes the form of the person who beat him, which is kind of cool.
And second, the lack of discoverability in the open world. Throughout both games, 14 and 16 boast beautiful worlds which serve as nothing more than set dressing for their respective narratives. There are no hidden treasures behind waterfalls, there are no destroyable barrels with crucial consumables, and there are certainly no secrets to uncover.
That's not entirely true. I will actually disagree with him. There are actual places within 14 and 16, especially 16, where you do find hidden treasure. You do go behind a waterfall, which I don't think there really is one that you can go by a waterfall, but I know what he means by that, to find different rings and equipments and swords. That's I don't agree with this statement, but only because I've been playing 14 for years, and I've always found it cool to find hidden locations. Those hidden locations are very sparse, but they are hidden nonetheless. And then 16 has more of them because it's a single player RPG. And there are places within 16 that you can't just typically find just by oh, there it is. You got to actually explore to find it to get cool trinkets. So I kind of disagree with this statement, at least this one. I'm kind of on board with everything else that he's saying, though.
Of any kind. Creative Studio 3's world design trains the player to pay as little attention to it as possible, never having to consider his or her
That's
options
actually
as a
true.
Dangerous threat, never wondering if there might be something worthwhile to discover.
That's actually true. I would have to say
everything
yeah,
exists in service to the narrative, so as long as the world looks pretty and it stays out of the way of the finely crafted cutscenes, then it's a thumbs up from Yoshi P. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the video, I'm a busy guy. One night, following a 12-hour workday, I decided to sit down and play Final Fantasy 16. I gave myself about an hour of gameplay before I would get ready for bed. In that hour, I touched my controller twice, maybe? The session was mostly cutscenes, all fantastically performed, but
Oh, this is the POV that I think his wife took with him. Good. That's a good wife.
Nonetheless.
Girlfriend, wife, I don't know. His partner helped him with that one. Good on her.
Then I came back the next night, and guess what? The same thing. More cutscenes and almost no gameplay. I began to notice a pattern, which I realized had started as far back as my introduction to Final Fantasy XIV, almost 6 years prior.
I don't think it's very fair to compare an MMO that is heavy on cutscenes to 16, that if there's any cutscenes whatsoever, it's kind of like cutscene for a quest. If you're trying to find a hunt or a mark, there's a very short cutscene. If anything, there could be no cutscene for it. You just go out and find the mark. But I do have to say it does rely on exposition. At least 14 relies heavily on exposition. 16 does rely on some exposition for certain things. I do say that that's true, but I wouldn't say it's like bogged down by cutscenes. Not in my experience.
Creative Studio 3 has a
like story mode is different though. Like the story for it.
Of stripping away the player's agency in the story that they're so desperate to tell. At every turn in both 14 and 16, control is ripped out of your hands, turning you into a passive observer rather than an active participant in the game.
I do think that that style of storytelling where they just take control away for a cutscene, it is taking you out of the immersion of the game because you're just putting the controller down, really. However, I do think that for 16, your hands are on the controller for most of the combat in there. I don't know why they don't want to go with the practice of, like, you know, during combat you hear them talking kind of thing. And maybe not a lot of people can pay attention to the dialogue while in combat, so that might be the case right there. That goes back to like the fear that the game industry have, that, you know, the studio or Yoshi P and his team might have.
This game design habit has only worsened in 14 with the release of Dawn Trail. Attempting to play through the expansion story in 1 or 2 hour intervals like any regular person with a regular schedule was torture, like off the books CIA black site torture. The only conclusion that I can reasonably come to is that no one at Creative Studio 3 plays their own games the way that we play them. Now,
I would have to say that that is an assumption. That is an opinion. Because Yoshi P plays his own game. We know that. And I'm going to assume that the studio also plays their own game. But they're not making... I don't know if they're making the game for themselves, or if they're making the game for the people around them, for the market. I don't know. But that is certainly an opinion. And that's a fair opinion that he's having.
Now, I am well aware that Yoshi P is famously active in Final Fantasy XIV, but what I'm questioning here is whether or not anyone at that studio, particularly its vaunted director, has ever sat down to play through their game's stories in a single uninterrupted session.
He has to be fair and say that this is an assumption.
If they had, then maybe someone might have noticed how often their games insist on playing themselves for fear of the player's input sullying the experience. These games are not visual novels, at least ostensibly. However, they certainly do function like visual novels, interrupted by brief spurts of well-dressed yet paper-thin gameplay. Under Yoshi P's leadership, Creative Studio 3 is inviting less participation from players as the years go on.
Let them talk here.
14's recent expansion and 16 go to great lengths to tell you what happened in the story rather than showing you or even allowing you to interact with the events yourself. For example, in Dawn Trail, we weren't allowed to participate in the cooking contest or the rebuilding of the train in Shalawani or the invasion of Tuliyola. All of those critical events in the story were cutscenes.
Let me go back.
For example, in Dawn Trail, we weren't allowed to participate in the cooking contest.
We did. We went and found the ingredients by talking to the people around us just to know how to make those tacos.
For the rebuilding of the train in Shalawani.
We did participate in building the train up in a way. We just talked with people. It's still stupid, but I'll give them more on this one because honestly it was like this whole smile cutscene and everybody working together and happy holly jolly stuff. That's what was happening, but I don't think building up the train was really an important focal point.
Or the invasion of Tuliyola.
Right, okay, so we partially took part of it because we were protecting people and trying to save people in the streets while this attack was going on. So that, I mean, I can't even say he's correct about that one. We did fight in that one.
All of those critical events in the story were cutscenes. 16 is guilty of this too, with the most egregious example being the boat chase towards the end of the game.
What the heck are you supposed to... If they didn't... Wait. There's no boat gameplay in 16 from what I can recall. So I guess you wanted like a boat section?
It would have been a lot of fun to pilot this boat myself, dodging enemy attacks before ramming into their ship and boarding it.
That's just like one thing though. A lot of the times you have a shortcut scene and then you're just on your way to do what you have to do, right? There is a buttload of cutscenes in 16, don't get me wrong, but I think that's just like the one example with the boat thing. Maybe they didn't make a boat scenario because you don't really have any kind of scenario where you're in a boat. So I don't know about that one.
But no, the cutscenes ate up all the budget, so all you get to do is perform the same combo you already have throughout the game against enemies who will barely try to kill you. I really struggle to think
You could just mix it up. You don't have to keep pressing square all the time. It's a Devil May Cry combat system.
of another studio in the AAA space that demonstrates as much disdain for player agency as Creative Studio 3. More than
Disdain? Okay, I'll hear him out.
simply committing the sin of ignoring show don't tell as a rule of storytelling, this is a studio which frequently asks its players to stay on the sideline of the experience that they paid for. This is a studio that fancies itself a great producer of stories, but stories can exist outside of the strict parameters laid down by the game developer. That's the beauty of video games. Emergent gameplay is as important to a game's narrative as its writing and its vocal performances. I think that Creative Studio 3 has completely lost sight of that.
He has a point. He has a point with the show don't tell. But that's not a constant consistency with 14. And that's not a consistent thing in 16. In 16, there is cutscenes, but you go to the village that was burnt down after you visited it. You go to the locations that you are now Sid. You in terms of 16, I'm saying you're now Sid, and you see how the world is reflected by going to these different towns with your missions. You don't have to take on like a billion cutscenes to do hunts, and at the very least, for Shadowbringers and Endwalker, at the very least, I could vouch for the fact that he is correct. There is a lot of show don't tell, but there's also the case that you are fighting Vanal because she's testing you, and in Shadowbringers you do see friends dying, and you got to go through a whole entire dungeon just to create the scenario of the night. This one's more of a mixed bag for me, because on one side he's correct. And on the other side, you do see, while going through combat, what the games that they are trying to create and what they're showing you within the story. But I mean, I'm not going to even take this away from him, though.
As an extension
This is
of
probably
the
just
issues
how
with
he
player
feels.
agency that plague Final Fantasy XIV and 16, there's a grand illusion obscuring one of the most unsightly blemishes on the face of Creative Studio 3, the illusion of choice. This is specifically in
That's
reference to
actually true.
customization and progression, which are abysmal in both of the titles that have been produced by this studio. Just a few weeks
That's
before
actually
producing this
true.
video, I managed to earn my best in slot gear in Final Fantasy XIV as a Viper. As a result of earning this achievement after months of raiding, I felt absolutely nothing. Similarly, in 16, every time I would forge a stronger weapon or piece of armor or accessory, I would feel absolutely nothing.
Okay. I disagree on the 16 part. I agree with the 14 part. In 16, when you do get new weapons, when you do get new gear, it feels like an upgrade and you actually are progressing in some sort of way. Sometimes it's story purpose. It's like, here you go, here's your new sword. And I'm like, well, thank you. I definitely do need this. But then when you get, like, when you achieve a new power, you do feel like, oh man, I can't wait to fight with this new power. 14, however, I think he's absolutely correct on. When you get that new gear, you know your numbers go up and you're slightly stronger. It doesn't really divvy up much of anything. And I don't know about feeling absolutely nothing, because when I do get like better armor or better gear or upgrade to a new weapon, I feel a little something, but I don't feel like absolutely nothing. I get it though. I get it, because for some people, it is absolutely nothing when you get new gear for 14, when you get a new weapon for 14, because like what are you doing? You got new gear, your numbers go up just slightly, if not just a little bit. It really doesn't feel all too rewarding in 14. And just like in chaotic raids, what are you getting? You do get like new gear, I guess. You do get mounts. Mounts is fun. But that comes down to more of glamour. And if glamour is your ultimate reward for a lot of these challenges, it's like really no point, honestly, for some people. They want to get something that will actually change things, you know? And I understand that point.
Creative Studio 3's approach to customization and progression is to simply avoid the topic altogether. Outside of numerical adjustments, improving your equipment in both 14 and 16 is an exercise in boredom. In 16, crafting materials are given to players like government cheese, a paltry handout to keep you moving along the singular track that has been determined for you. In 14, gear is entirely lacking in variety, and the process of selecting your gear is trivialized by the push of a button, which
True, because you can't, like, everybody wears the same stuff. If you're going to be at the same BIS, it's going to either be similar. People are going to meld the same materia within their gear. That's all it is. You're not really unique in that way.
Determines your best gear for you. Any need for input or weighing of options or opportunity cost has been sanded down or completely discarded. These progression systems exist as a means to fulfill some kind of design quota, as if someone said, well, we're building a video game, so we need to have a crafting system and gear progression, but we'd much rather add another pointless side quest with 7 minutes of dialogue, so just slap something together and call it a day. For an MMO to have a gearing system this weak is frankly unbelievable. I have never, not once, felt excited about what gear does in 14, only what it looks like. But for a single-player, story-driven role-playing game without the weight of multiplayer balance and technical debt to feel just as bland, just as phoned in, and quite frankly just as boring is equally dumbfounding.
Okay, I'll give them that. Just a little bit, because I do think gear in 16 is a bit different than like how 14s work, only because gear does help and you do feel it in 16 rather than 14.
Isolated from their other design flaws, Creative Studio 3's inability to create an interesting progression system in over a decade of game development might be excusable, but it goes back to the heart of the issue. Whether or not these are directly his decisions, Creative Studio 3's design philosophy under the leadership of Yoshi P seems interested only in eroding what little input is left in the hands of the players.
So Yoshi P isn't just the one calling all of the shots. I do want to say this. Yoshi P shares a lot of his decisions and does talk with his team before making a final decision. I believe he says that in the documentary. I believe he said that in an interview. I have lack of proof, so you're gonna have to take my what I'm saying with a grain of salt. But everything doesn't really come down to it. Not everything comes down to Yoshi P, because he's not the one who's directing the story, right? Not because it's a team effort for the story to be put through for both 16 and 14. So it's not always like his decision. Maybe it comes down to the agreement of an A-OK to happen for that story to happen, or something in terms of gameplay to happen, or some sort of new design or a new system to happen. Yoshi P is the one who has to sign off on that, but I don't think he's the one who's making the final decision or coming up with that. So, and like I said, take what I say with a grain of salt. But I've been in the tech biz for a year now, officially, like an actual 9 to 5. I get a not like a an hourly job kind of thing, but I get a salary kind of thing, tech job. I've seen it, is what I'm saying.
The final point of contention that I want to talk about is Creative Studio 3's quest design, or lack thereof. In the MMORPG genre, quests are a bit of a conundrum because they typically boil down to talking to an NPC, clicking on an interactable item, or killing a group of enemies, but that isn't necessary by its nature. When we talk about quest design in MMOs, we treat it as though it's a solved problem, as if that's the extent of what the genre is capable of, but quests can be more than the linear processes that we become accustomed to. Creative Studio 3 demonstrated the willingness to push the boundaries of these dated assumptions about quest design during Endwalker. They gave us a sort of Metal Gear Solid mission and a timed puzzle to contend with, which proved to me that the idea of the quest can still be a platform for innovation.
Okay, so I don't like that one. The time puzzle. A lot of people, if not everybody, loves this. I hated it. I hated it with my life. I hated the whole scenario of it being like a time puzzle and it's like a 30-minute puzzle. No, I hate long ass puzzles. If that's what he's like, I hated it so much. People are gonna call me out on and say like, well, you're just a weak-minded bitch. But I'm just saying, like, I didn't like it. I hated it. But at the very least, it's an interesting story quest. What he's talking about is our story quests. there's more to it when it comes to Quest, because they played it very safe in Dawn Trail, which is the reason why it was so freaking boring. There was a lot of show don't tell, to per his example as well, in Dawn Trail.
What happened to that studio? Unfortunately, 16 and Dawn Trail were a regression in this regard, resting on the laurels of the most basic form of quest design that you can think of. Go over there, deliver this thing to that guy, kill this bug. Yes, the fate of the world is at stake, but I really need you to help me pick these herbs.
True enough, right? We've always, I think in every expansion thus far, there was always like some sort of big, like sort of turnover quest that was just like different, right? Just like the examples he put out there. In Dawn Trail, I'm trying to think if Dawn Trail had something like that. There was like that scenario in Solution 9, but all that is just, that was an escort, really. And I'm not really sure what much there was in the first part of Dawn Trail. So I do have to agree there was some sort of regression, but like I said, in Endwalker, I hated the swap body scenario. I hated it. I hated that scenario, only because of the timer, really, because the timer really put on the pressure, and I don't deal well with pressure like that, especially if it's 30 freaking minutes. So it's like, ugh.
Creative Studio 3's games lean heavily on the
maybe it was
dialogue
25.
as the experience of their quests, rather than the given task of the quest. This is an assumption, but it seems to me that the developers are confident that the intrinsic value of their quest design is more than enough for their players. The gameplay experience, or the prize at the other end of the quest, are...
I think it's been a complaint about like quests in general since the very beginning for Final Fantasy XIV, that their quests, their side quests, is usually ignored, and it's not really that good. And I've been saying that for years, that their side quests are kind of boring. It kind of sucks because like there's nothing really to it. And then I started playing OSRS, or old school RuneScape, and I'm just like, why can't we have quests like these? You know what I'm saying? It's like I have to say that, yeah, he's correct on this one, but it's not like this is new. This has always been there.
An afterthought. In some cases, they're right. The story has the capacity to be more than enough. When I think of the most memorable moments during Shadowbringers, for example, I don't think of gameplay experiences. Rather, I think of the laundry list of incredible story beats that line that expansion story from start to finish.
True
In
enough,
that particular
yeah.
case, the intrinsic value covers
It's always
the
been
cost
like a
of admission.
cutscene.
But when the story isn't as strong, then the gameplay better be damned good, or at least have the wherewithal to give me something I care about for sitting through your boring dialogue. But the reality is, that's an impossible thing to ask for. Yoshi P's vision for Creative Studio 3 requires that their games are completely devoid of tension, threat, or input by the player.
Again, this is not the final say from Yoshi P. It is not. He signs off on it, but he has to work as a team. He himself doesn't come up with the idea in totality. I believe he is working with his team to come up with the safe methods, right? Because it's not just like the boss who comes up with every single plan, every single story scenario, and every single quest or anything like that. No, he signs off on it. He has to listen to his team, and then they make suggestions, they cut out all the fat, and then they come together for him to approve on it. But it's not, I wouldn't put all of that on Yoshi P. At least I wouldn't.
Out of fear that their game's true reward, which is the next cutscene, will go unseen. To that end, their worlds must be built as set dressing for the story rather than spaces in which emergent gameplay can take place. Traditional progression systems threaten the delicate balance of their game, so they must be reduced to linear statistical advantages, lest they overwhelm the player with having to make a choice.
I'd say that's more of like, that's a studio choice, I would say, definitely, because it's like, they're the ones who were like, you know what, that might be just the best idea to go with our players. That's probably the best thing to do, because they're probably there just for the story. I don't know if Yoshi P is the one who's saying like, no, we have to keep it that way. But I do know that like it wasn't just him on the stage talking about certain things. There have been plenty of people representing the game in certain scenarios like this.
And because the player cannot be reliably trusted to participate in a theatrical scene exactly as the developers envisioned it, they're forced to wrest control away from the player over and over again to ensure that the gameplay doesn't get in the way of the narrative, which, as you know, is the most important part of a video game.
So explaining something that's happening within like a person-to-person base in Final Fantasy 16. That one's a question for me. Maybe I'm misunderstanding that one. 16 has a good amount of cutscenes, but it doesn't really take away from you playing the game for what it is. At least I don't think.
I understand that for many of you, Yoshi P is something of a primal. People become incredibly emotional when you have anything negative to say about the products that he stewards, but remember, Naoki Yoshida works for a company. He's at the helm of an organization which creates products which you pay for. Some of you have given thousands of dollars to Square Enix for continued access to Final Fantasy XIV. It's my opinion that for the money you've spent, you deserve better, although whether or not you agree with that is up to you. Yoshi P and the hundreds of faceless employees who work at Creative Studio 3 are not your friends. You have a transactional relationship with that studio's public.
That's true. It's very true. I mean, nobody should really be looking at any kind of game dev, director, producer, anybody involved in a business or even like any sphere of like entertainment that you know you have a transactional relationship with as a friend. You never look at it that way. And I can understand why he's saying this. I don't know what happened to all the white. It would probably look better if you put the white in there in terms of editing. There are some people who will go to bat for a company for no reason. And it's like, why? Like, I'm not going to sit here and defend Square Enix. I do have a bias, though, because Yoshi P has created a damn good MMO. But if Yoshi P ever messed up, sure, I'm going to call him out on that, you know? Anybody will call him out on that, to be honest. But I'm not going to say that, I'm not going to, you know, say that he's wrong in this point. In this case, he's absolutely correct. Don't treat people who created your favorite video game as a friend. That's just nonsense.
Publisher and the games they produce. If you're happy with the slop that you've been served by Creative Studio 3 since the release of 16 and Dawn Trail, then all power to you. For those of you who are a bit more sympathetic to my critiques, do as I've done. Vote with your wallet.
I kind of did. I kind of voted with my wallet, but I also voted with what content I'm playing within the game. I'm usually just playing with my friends in Savage mode. Now, if I stopped altogether playing 14, that would mean that there was nothing and absolutely nothing in 14 that I would play. And that happened in Endwalker. In just Endwalker, really. I kept coming back in Shadowbringers because there was Savage, there was some content that I wanted to do, and the fact that I was a content creator. But that's like on my stance there. But for Endwalker, I stopped. And for Dawn Trail, I probably would also stop playing if I didn't have friends who also wanted to play the challenging mode of this all. And I noticed that he's at level like 730 on his character, which means he did the Savage content and stuff. And maybe that's the only thing that he's interested in, especially seeing, you know, how they're a Viper. You're playing a Viper, dude. That's like it's the highest attacking class in the game. I see where your priorities are. But no, I think a lot of what he said in this video was something that I can agree with. Some things that I don't agree with, like how 16 didn't have really anything like hidden. There's no like hidden treasures. There's no like things to explore. I disagree with that because it's a solo standalone RPG. There are plenty of things that are hidden that you can find. Those are trinkets, armor, even like when you're going out on hunts, there are plenty. I wish there were more. Honestly, I do. I wish there were more, but I don't think there was like absolutely nothing in there.
Well, everybody, that is the end of that scathing essay. I'm looking forward to the public's reception of it, but if you'll give me about a minute, I have a few unscripted words that I want to say. This channel actually began as a Final Fantasy XIV channel, and it began because I was so bored during Endwalker's post-expansion patches, and I wanted something to do with the game, so I figured a few top 10 lists and maybe a few essay pieces couldn't hurt. 14 has been such a massive disappointment, particularly in the last 2 years, that I just can't see myself making more dedicated content about the game. I would love to have a reason to come back and write more essays about 14, but I just don't think that's going to happen. There are plenty of other games out there to explore and other things to write essays about, of course, so please stick around if you love MMOs as much as I do and you'd like to hear me talk about, say, Throne and Liberty, which is coming up next. Either way, as we approach the end of the year, I just want to say thanks to everybody for being here. I know it's only a few thousand of you, but I really appreciate it. It's a lot bigger than I thought it would be at this stage. If I don't upload again before the end of the year, then have a great Christmas.
If I don't
Happy New Year. God bless you all.
For another year, that's okay. So the video was all right. The video was fine. The video was that was fine. I think the video was fine. There is a couple things I will say though. There is a couple things I will say. Your first mistake, sir, if you ever watch this video, reacting to your video, is the fact that you decided to make content on 14 in the first place. Because I made the same mistake. See, I started out with Final Fantasy 11, and then I went to 14, and now I'm back at Final Fantasy 11. Not with like content, but from like my own enjoyment and entertainment. And after being gone from 11 for maybe close to like 10 years, maybe, I realize there's a lot in 11 that I have come to appreciate, especially seeing how 14 is the victim of modern MMO design. A lot of 14 is pretty much the reason why so many people have left, why so many people are gone. If you're looking at my eye, by the way, I've been rubbing it, so I do apologize for that. A lot of that happens to be, you know, the fault of MMO design. Excuse me. Let me, I'm gonna fix my camera real quick. Give me 1 second. Oh, it can't capture my face. That's a shame. Give me 1 second. Oh, did I lose? Did I lose control of the camera? That's crazy. Yeah, I've been rubbing it. I know I shouldn't be rubbing it, but it is what it is with it. There it is. There it is. Okay, fixed it. Anyway. I know I shouldn't be rubbing it. I know I shouldn't be rubbing it. You're absolutely correct with a lot of the things in your critique in that video. Absolutely, I actually agree with that. The whole 16 thing and not being able to find a lot of things, maybe there's a difference in opinion there. Calling this saying that this is all down on Yoshi P, I have to have a slight disagreement there, because he works as a team with a lot of it. Like, he doesn't dictate how the music is going to be. He doesn't dictate the total end all of how the story is going to turn out. And he certainly doesn't dictate so much as to like the content 100%. I would say he has to approve all that for sure, but it's not all of him doing this. I think Yoshi P is more malleable than this. I mean, when he said that he fell asleep at the wheel when it came to Endwalker's dungeon design, he knew that it had to be a bit harder. And even to this day, people are still complaining about how much harder the gameplay is in Dawntrail. Now, that's only because you have one problem. Yeah, well, you have two problems. One is modern game design, and modern game design does not allow for someone to actually learn the game, but to breeze through it as fast as possible to end game. So that's like the first thing you have to acknowledge. And 14 is no different. 14 wants you to cruise through to end game because they want you to experience the story, and there's like really like nothing that will get people excited if the story isn't exciting, because you're doing more of the same in Dawntrail. And the second one is just like a 14 problem, I think, and that is they were trying to ease up everything from like a Realm Reborn, Heaven's Word, Stormblood. They were changing dungeons. They made the trust system so people could practically go solo within the game. They were trying to accommodate and I'm trying not to say casuals, but maybe like more of the majority class that plays the game, because maybe they had complaints, maybe they didn't, I don't know, but most people who play 14 are playing it for other reasons other than just playing the content. They're there for sociability, they're there for their role playing, or maybe they're like really into like some sort of really interesting market board financial economics. And I've seen them. Maybe they're there because they want to showcase how good they are at building their house. And I've actually seen a lot of houses that were really cool on the inside, which makes me like, oh, I wish they can make it more editable, or like being able to edit the inside of your house in a more creative way, rather than having that, you know, that staple setting on the inside of the house. I'm sure wall decorations is an upgrade for a lot of people, but that's still just like nothing to me. And hey, what's up Argus? There's yeah, it's just like 14 in itself is, it has a lot of, like I said, modern MMO design, and they did it to themselves. They didn't innovate really on the combat. They only changed what certain jobs did what. They basically took away any need to like think about the race that you are. Like, what's the point? What's the point of picking out your name day in 14? The elements that you're behind, I guess, when it comes to your name day. I don't know if that's involved in crafting, but you barely feel it because it doesn't mean anything. So that whole entire thing, when it comes to picking your name day and choosing what god you're under out of the months, means nothing. Like, a lot of things that they could have updated on the time. Like, people have been begging for like blitzball when swimming came out. They didn't do that because the game can't handle something like that. Then they came out with flying and they put it in the modern zones. Now everybody can fly in the old ARR zones, which, I mean, that's fine, that's whatever, but it's not fixing the central issue, which is content and rewards. Because when you get like a new weapon from, let's just say, any of the extremes, so that you can get your eye level up or be slightly stronger for Savage or something like that, does it really mean anything other than number go up? No. Doesn't have any kind of affix like you would see it in like Diablo or Path of Exile. There's nothing really like extra to it. Like, it doesn't put your enemies on fire because it's not really a special weapon. It's just another beat stick to hit the enemies with. It doesn't do anything. Meanwhile, in World of Warcraft, you get an axe that does bleeding and poison. Meanwhile, in old school RuneScape, and just old school RuneScape, I refuse to acknowledge RuneScape 3, but in old school RuneScape, you would grind for hours and hours and hours for weapons like, I want to say like Dragon's Claw, just to be simple. Or even like, what was that, the Void Waker? Like, that thing is in pieces, and when you finally get that weapon, it's like the special weapon skill is amazing on it. None of that is in 14. There's no variety, there's no uniqueness. The content in Dawn Trails, and even the story was a letdown. Only half of it was actually interesting, and it's still the same old thing, which leads people to stop playing the game. Coming in to just do the story is not going to work all the time for Yoshida. Hopefully Yoshida understands this, because I know the reason why he designed it this way is so that people doesn't have to play the game all day, so that people don't have to stick to the game and they can just go and play something else. He did it on purpose, right? That's why it's the way it is. Hate going for the Void Waker though, since that's wilderness locked. True enough. But it's a pretty good video. You know, I thought I was going to dislike it, but I actually agree with a lot of what he says. And honestly, it brings up a lot of good points. I wouldn't put this all down on Yoshi P, however. I still think that's more of a collaborative effort, because he doesn't seem like, from like the interviews and how many people that other people interviewed within his team, it doesn't seem like he's bringing in some sort of culture where they have to work hard. It doesn't seem like there's this culture, whereas he is the one who's making all of the decision. I think that's shared effort, but I do think that the culture of fear is there. They don't want to fail, and that kind of lingered, and it's been there for maybe 10 years. I don't know. I don't have a specific on that, and we could both only assume on that one. So I mean, that's all I really got to say. If you guys want to go ahead and see the video for yourself, instead of watching it through my video, hey, go ahead and take a look. I'm going to put it in the description of the YouTube video. And as I am right now streaming and recording at the same time, if you want to come and visit me on my streams, come on over. I'm usually streaming on Twitch and YouTube all the same. And for those of you who forgot that I was recording a video, gotcha, you're in a video now. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Oh no, you're stuck in a video. What will you do? I turned off TTS for that because I usually get distracted by you guys making comments all the time. So I had to focus on the video. I know I should stop rubbing my eye. I'm going to say this because I have already said this, like, 103,000 times. Dawntrail is a disappointment of an expansion. The story was half interesting, and it's mostly the same when it comes to the gameplay. So I think we probably need more videos like this, to be honest, telling the truth of their experience in Dawntrail, just to get a point across. Other than that, we're gonna try and get Marvel Rivals working. I need to get that son of a gun working. Yeah, I mean, what is it that I would love to see? I would love to see, hold on a second. Okay, I need to save the file so that it doesn't go anywhere. Let's see. I think there needs to be a rehaul on the entire design of things. Yeah, especially healers, but I think there's like a rehaul of a lot of the system and design for a lot of the game. Because, like, I would like to see elemental weaknesses. I would like to see specific jobs have certain duties and roles. Kind of like, if you had a black mage that does fire, lightning, and ice, there's a monster that needs to be hit by fire, lightning, or ice, basically give a unique purpose for black mages, something akin to that. Dark Knight uses a lot of darkness. Maybe have like a monster that's weak to darkness and stuff like that. I don't know. I would like to see more uniqueness within the design of equipment, and abilities, so that I'm not just the same Dark Knight as thousands of other people. like to see materia reformatted and reworked so it doesn't just affect your stats, but maybe also can be like an affix, kind of like on PoE, how they have affixes and stuff like that. All right, let's see if we can get this working out. I don't know. Let's see. I want to be able to play while streaming. Maybe it's in the settings. Probably gonna have to start innovating the same way they did when ARR came out. That would probably require them to mess with the whole entire noodle code that they have, which means that they would have to remake the game from scratch or something. Maybe I think that's like the big point of it all, though, is that they would have to remake the game from scratch. And when you have to remake an entire game from scratch, you know, it's less likely that that's going to happen, especially seeing how 14 is like a big pillar holding up Square Enix. Let me turn TTS back on for you guys. You need to at least start working on innovating the game. Imagine doing that for 11. Honestly, if they decided to take the system and code for 11 and modernize it, and when I mean like modernize it, I mean bring it to the 20th century, 21st century, I guess. Bring it to modern times. Maybe, you know, make it look good graphically. I would say if they're going to take the system, they kind of need it to be where it is, you know. Happy Monday. I subscribe to you. Have been amazing ideas for your channel theme, and I bet you'll definitely like it. Hit me up in Discord. Dang, you shouldn't do that, Alani. I'm sorry you came and wasted your time. I'm sorry you wasted your time on that.
This again, huh?
Well, notice that TTS didn't even pick it up. Okay, so, oh my goodness, do you see this?
LOL.
Yo, do you see this? How did it get to this? Oh, no, I put it there. Okay, I was about to say, I thought it said ultra quality. Ultra performance, that's what I wanted. Ultra performance. Show FPS always, do not limit it. And if I optimize this, I think it'll be low.
I'm curious if you might be having the same problem I had with Dark Tide.
What do you mean? Telling me. Alright, so... Whoa, hold on.
Cause I see you have frame gen on and it was killing my game when I played it.
Wait, what? Because frame gen? Let me see. Frame generated. Oh, okay. Enable frame generation to achieve higher FPS. Requires a GPU hardware acceleration enabled on your OS. Please avoid switching windows or displays in full screen mode when enabling frame generation, as this may cause. Okay, so turn that off then. Holy crap! Look at that. You see that? Okay, yeah, frame gen mode may
That
have
was
been a problem.
turned on Dark Tide, and when I turned it off it fixed my FPS issue on Dark Tide.
Holy crap, look at that. It is beefing. It is beefing. I put everything in low because I really don't care about the graphic quality. I just need to see the enemy and shoot it. If you guys want to test it out and just come on in, we can test out the game. I'm gonna go to the bathroom real quick. BRB.
I can hop on, just gonna head to the bathroom and get more water.
Yep. Oh my gosh, what is this gigantic screen? I need to pull it under. Ugh. All right, I think we've had enough. Let's listen to Gustaberg. Yeah, let's listen to Gustaberg real quick. Where is it? Here it is. Alright, I'll be right back. Okay. All right. Let me rename this. So, let's see. There we go. So I'm going to see if I can play a game without it going haywire. Now, we just... Dang, like, what the hell is happening? It's like going nuts. It keeps hitting 200. Like, why do I need that many frames? Alright, but that's off. Ultra performance borderless window. If I click off of it... Okay, the frame is still the same. Let me check everything else here. If it's too bad, I'm just gonna call it quits because I don't want to have like a bad game with other and ruin other people's stuff. Oh my Lord, have mercy. Oh my gosh. It's bad. It's bad. We could try one game. We could try one game. Communication. And ping button. Push to talk. Now, when I do that, you hold the key to talk. Okay. Press toggle the voice chat channel, which is P. Okay. What we can do, I'm gonna try and test out one game. I don't know, if my boy's gonna come back, but I'm gonna try to play a quick match. And if it works with quick match and no interruptions, the frame rate doesn't go like stupid, then I can definitely play with friends and with chat. Did I?
Pick your hero.
Here's
You're a
hoping.
villain. I'm not judging.
Yeah, let me just go in and see if it works. Is everybody just chilling? Is everybody chilling?
I'm here to finish the fight that my father began.
Okay,
I hope I
I'm
make it
choosing
there.
Penny. I'm choosing Penny. Were they waiting for a tank to show? They were waiting. They were just like, who's gonna be the tank? Who's gonna be the tank? All right, let's see. FPS is looking pretty good. Ping is not amazing. Oh my gosh.
My dad built Spider for himself.
Let me see.
But I feel like I was born to pilot it.
30 seconds.
Ping is
before
about
your
what
turn.
I'd expect.
Get ready.
Run up walls.
What is shark thing with feet? Hulk likes shark thing.
Well, what the heck is
Do
this?
not let Doom do any more damage to the web of life and destiny.
Yo, what the heck is going on here?
The battle starts in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All you need to do is capture the mission area. Got it?
Dot 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 dot.
This was make gamma melt stretchy.
Enemies on approach.
So this is just oh, I'm just gonna populate the area.
Should've kept your hand off my deck, fuzzball.
Oh, okay. Well, I am playing quick play, so
The mission area is yours to capture now.
I am playing quick play, so
The mission area is yours.
Years, you still find ways to impress me, Susan.
Be proud of what you did here.
I compliment you, Hulk.
It just wasn't your dad. This is gonna hurt.
I gotta remember that I don't need to
No worries. I've got your back.
I've lost control.
Nine's in place.
ah.
Enemy located.
Beat her up, beat her up, beat her up.
You've captured more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
And she was how did I miss every shot?
Nine's in place.
Those shots just did not want to land XD.
Not at all. I'm gonna hit his shield from back here. Why not?
Trouble has arrived.
The area's almost yours.
I think people were sleeping on Penny Parker. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Penny Parker's not that bad.
And dangerous.
Uh-oh.
Problem solved.
I am ready to put on a show.
That was weird. They all started coming at once. All right,
Penny
FPS.
is pretty good, she just has some areas that kinda hurts her a lot.
I think a lot of people are sleeping on her.
My dad builds better for himself.
The only thing that
Little
I
late with that, weren't they?
yeah, that was a little weird. It might be bots. We might be fighting bots. I wouldn't put it past him if I was fighting bots.
Just a smidge LOL.
Before you attack.
Like, the one thing I wish you could do as Penny is run across. But you can only run up. Because
Check the logo. Order. Parker Industries.
Parker, as in, he didn't even finish college.
I thought only college dropouts
Battle
could be famous
starts in
tech founders.
5,
But
4,
no.
But yeah, Penny is good, she just struggles a bit on some maps is all.
she
all you
does.
need to do is capture the mission area.
She does.
Then again, same can be said about most of the heroes.
You're up, Borderlands.
Shields up! Us against the world!
By the eye of Agamotto!
And he got frozen for it. Okay, that's fine. It's not gonna stop me from doing all this.
This is gonna hurt. We make quite a team.
Oh, too bad. He's already dead.
Powering up.
I got your back.
You know what to do, spiders? Time for some
You captured
fireworks.
more than half of the mission area. Keep going.
I don't think he realizes that flying up doesn't stop him.
Time for some fireworks.
Enemy located. Over here. I can heal you.
This is gonna hurt.
I'm
I'm ready to put on a show. The area's almost yours. Shields up.
This is gonna hurt.
Us against the world.
Time for some fireworks.
And Jeff just said nah. And Jeff just said nah. Alright, that worked out very well. Alright, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good.
Another epic victory. Big win.
Neat. What he must have went in.
Seems like the stream stayed stable.
I'm happy about that. Yeah. What's the score? Really? Really? I didn't even do the most damage, that's the thing.
So I guess it might have been a similar issue as what I had with Dark Tide then.
I believe so. That might be the case, yeah. I think the other thing is that I also want to play competitive, but the problem with that is that I'm in bronze 1. See, if you were in bronze or silver, I'd be able to play with you. I assume everyone is like way ahead of me in terms of competitiveness. Alright, let's try... Okay, everybody's offline. I was gonna say, let's try doing that See if we can get a team together and see if the network stabilizes there.
I should be in bronze 2 cause I haven't RLY played.
That's alright. We'll play like quick play matches so that we don't ruin anybody's fun. But that looked like it worked out very well. So hopefully in the future we don't have a different kind of problem or the same problem that we had before, which is good. It's good.
I'm best rank, unranked. Here's hoping it stays this way.
Man. Oh, by the way, I had to do it. Where is she? I had to do it. Oh, she didn't. Excuse me? Hello? Excuse me, invisible woman. Sue. Sue, you know what you were supposed to wear. Where is she? I can't even find her anymore. I'm blind.
But yeah, I saw frame gen and remembered how my game would go from a smooth 60 to literally 10 FPS just by moving my mouse in Dark Tide.
Ooh, that looks good. I like that. But yeah, I got the costume. Yes, I got the costume. Don't yell at me. You knew it was coming. I also had to get this costume.
I won't yell at you, I just won't use it myself XD.
This is the other Psylocke costume that I want to get, which is her original. By the way,
neither am I.
I'm trying to figure out, is this okay? Psy. So okay.
The Venom costume is RLY good, so can't blame you for getting it.
I don't know which universe Psylocke this is. Like, she is, the story on Psylocke is that her name is, like, Betsy or something. And the original Psylocke is an American woman with purple hair. And then she got her mind transferred over to this body. It's a whole story. So I'm not really too sure what they're doing with, like, which Psylocke this is. I don't know who this is. Wonder if, like, the lore says anything? No, it's just Psy.
My friend explained which version of Psylocke it is, but I forgot.
Yeah, I'm not too sure which version this is. I don't know. I know this is post Xavier Magneto, which means you see the X on his chest means that he is an X-Men, but he still stands up for like mutant kind and all that other stuff. This is post Xavier Magneto, so this is after Xavier dies, which I have to give him credit for. Now the question is, which version of Squirrel Girl is this?
The only thing I remember is that she's an alternate version of the Psylocke most PPL know, and that her name is Psy or something like that.
Okay. Oh my god, this girl destroyed the internet. Squirrel Girl literally destroyed the internet. Also, by the way, I'm kind of glad they decided to make her, kind of thick, right? Because she's not, like, 100% athletic. But she's also not, unhealthy. How does she fit in this thing? How does she fit in this thing? I have no idea. Yeah, I've been playing a lot of Rocket Raccoon. But if I don't have fun, if I don't win with Rocket, I play with Loki.
Just don't call him a raccoon.
He doesn't even know what a raccoon is. So we know it's before he realizes what he is, Rocket. It's before he... I've been seeing a lot of Thor. I'm wondering why I've been seeing a lot of Thor.
From the limited info I can find, she would apparently be from Demon Days.
Really? Wait, are we talking about Psylocke?
Yeah.
For all mutants. There he is. He's what is the name of this? King Magnus. Oh my goodness. Savage Submariner. Got all this. I didn't get all this. And I need to get more? Obtain 750 more. Okay. Ooh. I didn't realize her design on her clothes changed. I didn't notice that. Oh, it's also on Spider. I did not notice that. The design, okay. It's very subtle, I couldn't even tell. I'm gonna keep them red. Okay. Yeah, we'll do it next time, cause I gotta go to bed and make my way, because I got work tomorrow, and I gotta go into the office tomorrow. So, if I can hand you guys off on someone, I'll do that. Let me see. Let me see. I'm going to try to hand you guys off on someone.
Gotcha. Take care.
Right. Let's see. Do I have any friends? I don't know. Let's see. There are a bunch of people playing Marvel Rivals right now.
Just like there's a lot of people here that aren't really here.
Hopefully I don't miss the next rival stream so I can join if you do viewer matches. Tongue sticking out.
I think there's going to be a lot more of those happening rather than, 14. I'll try to do, 14 sometimes, but I think there's going to be a lot more other games than 14. Who and what? This man. This is the darkest stream. He's playing Spider-Man 2. Not Spider-Man 2, the number, but like Spider-Man TOO. See what he's trying to do.
I mean, that's fine, not like ATM 14 as a lot to go for content-wise.
You ain't lying. Alright. I don't see anybody that I know. Well, I think I know him. But I think the best thing to do is just let you guys be free. Don't want to keep you here. Scott Falk is playing Paper Mario. Alright, guys.
Funny you mentioned Scott, I was probably gonna watch him next, lol. But yeah, later man.